Monday morning. And as always, it is a joy and a pleasure to be able to spend a few minutes with you and bring a devotion. It's always a joy to see those that interact and those that respond in any capacity. And we are always thankful for all of the messages of encouragement. So welcome, my friends. And this morning we're going to begin a look this week at fear and what it does, the effects on our lives. And we oftentimes think that fear is just a crippling emotion that just kind of keeps us stuck, but there is so much more that takes place when fear overwhelms us. And I am no doctor. I am no scholarly person when it comes to things of the body, but I can read a few articles and I can gather some information and I can share that with you on here in the mornings. And I can gather some Bible, some scriptures, and share that with you as well. And the subject of fear is a subject that has been widely taught on by pastors in the last couple of years. It's a subject that has been dove into, and we've revolved it around the virus and other things, and we gave it exclusively to sicknesses and loneliness and all of those things. We gave that fear over just to those things in the last couple of years. And when the truth of the matter is, there is any multitude of things in our lives that will cause us to live in somewhat of a state of fear. And when we go into a state of fear, our body begins to do some interesting things. And spiritually, we do some interesting things as well. And so this week, we're going to look at those. This morning, I'm going to draw a line between a couple of those, the physical and the spiritual. But this morning, we're going to start with the heart. Now, in the New Testament, the seat of the emotions is the heart. In the Old Testament, the seat of the emotions was the bowels. If you're familiar with the Old Testament, you'll find that all throughout the Old Testament, there was written bowels of mercy, in my bowels. And that means it was the seat of the emotions. Whenever something was very emotional or gripping, then they would say, from my bowels. And I'm really thankful. I know we're adults on here. I'm really thankful that it was changed. The seat of the emotions became the heart. It's much easier to say, I love you with all my heart than to look at someone and say, I love you from the depths of my bowels. And so in the New Testament, the seat of the emotion is the heart. And we find in the New Testament, we find a great deal written in the New Testament about the heart. And, we're told to guard even the Psalms and Proverbs teach us to guard our heart, for all the issues of life stem from it. And we oftentimes we forget many things that the scriptures say. I'm just going to run over a few for you really quick. But as water reflects the face, the heart reflects a man. Ezekiel 36 says he would give us a new heart. Then we get a warning from Jeremiah that the heart is deceitful and who can understand it. And Christ said in Matthew 5, the pure in heart, they shall see God. Blessed are the pure in heart. And 1 Samuel 16, they said that God looks upon the heart and not upon man's outside stature. And then, of course, John 14, Christ encouraged his people, his disciples. He said, let not your heart be troubled. And so these all deal with the heart, and all of that we just read can be traced back to a simple statement of God hasn't given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. And this is the truth. God hasn't given you a spirit of fear, O child of God. He has given you a spirit of love and power, truth, and of sound mind. And so this week we're going to look at things. So this morning, the heart, and what fear does to your heart. Now, there's a very interesting article that I found in Health Digest of April 30th, 2021. And I dove into this last night and had a great time looking at it. But I dove into this Health Digest April 30th, 2021. And they said, listen, when you become scared, when you become overwhelmed with fear and anxiety, some things happen to your heart. Now, we're not just talking about watching the news. We're talking about those momentary bursts of fear or whatever they may be. So when we look at fear in general, A lot of things can cause us to fear, and we're going to deal with that in a minute. But some things begin to happen. And did you know that when you become scared, your heart goes into overdrive, and it pushes all the blood to your extremities. And you get ready to do one of three things. Your instinct tells you you're either going to fight, you're going to flee, or you're going to freeze. And this becomes in moments of fear and in times of fear, this is what our body prepares to do. So our heart pushes all the blood to our extremities. Our pupils change, our eyes change, our hands and our feet get ready to move and go. And here we sit because something alerted us to be fearful. Now, this is important for you to understand because all the blood rushes away from the heart. And there's a great strain that's put on the heart when we become fearful. And this is what they said in Health Digest. They said the heart rate and blood glucose levels increase. Blood flow is directed toward the major muscle groups, lungs and pupils. Lungs and the pupils dilate, digestion slows, perspiration is triggered, and even the liver and pancreas are affected. Now, that's given in the American Heart Association. It's backed up by them as well. So this is important for us to see, and I think you can draw the line to it today, is that if you are doing things in your daily life that constantly bring upon fear, whether that's watching the news or maybe taking counsel from somebody that doesn't encourage you and strengthen you and lift you up, if you are constantly placing yourself in front of something that causes you to fear, your heart is being affected. Now, we can talk about the physical all day long, but let's talk about the spiritual. Because when we live in a state of fear, our heart can't function like it's supposed to. We can't be the Christian that we are called to be, and we definitely cannot express the love, the joy, the peace, and the contentment that Christ brings to our life if we're living in fear. If we're keeping our heart from evil, if we're going to keep it from fear, that would lead us to examine how to prevent such a tragic and destructive trait of living in fear. How do we do that? Well, I'm not going to tell you, just turn the TV off. I believe you need to be informed. I think you need to be careful as to where you get your news from, but I think you need to be informed. I'm not going to tell you to cut yourself off from the world, because you would be no good as a disciple of Christ to draw men unto Him, to lead them and to point them to the cross of Calvary if you just stayed in your house all day long. So how do we live a life that doesn't cripple our heart with fear? Well, that life is going to have to come under the subjection of Jesus Christ and everything in our life. You say there is a brink of war in the Ukraine and Russia, and it looks bad if this thing escalates and tensions rise. Our allegiance with other nations is being tested right now on how we're viewing this situation. And you say, this could be World War III. And absolutely, that's concerning to me. My children have to grow up with all the messes that we make. I'm not going to live in fear over it. I know that God has promised His people that I've yet to, well, the psalmist said it. He said, I've yet to see the righteous forsaken, nor yet a seed begging bread. And he said, my heart is not going to be crippled by fear. And why we live in such a day where the news, if you're watching the news as to what to do with the virus and sicknesses and things, one day you feel better about it. The next day you're back down in the gutter again. You're going to have to be smart, live your life smart, and live your life clean. I believe there is a sickness running around and we need to be cautious of it, but you cannot live your life in fear. And one day, the foremost doctor in the United States will tell you everybody's going to get it. And then the next day they say, well, you can prevent getting it if you do this. And well, the truth of the matter is everybody's just living in fear now. They're living in fear and their hearts are crippled. We're watching churches empty out. We're watching ministries go undone because people are living in fear. I'm not asking yourself to plunge yourself into a dangerous situation where you put yourself at a potential risk for harm. I'm asking you not to live in fear. I'm asking you to live as the Scriptures declared a child of God should live. And that is with love, power, and sound mind. Confident, strengthened, not timid, not afraid. Moving forward in the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, declaring freedom in Christ. So, let's be mindful of how fearful we're being today. Let's be mindful of how our hearts being crippled by the fear being brought on in our life. It's not just over a virus. It's over a world war. It's over an economy. It's over the looming thought that the stock market's going to crash. It's over the thought of gas prices and food prices going higher. I understand. I have 2 growing boys, and they can chew through a grocery budget in a third of the week. But I'm not going to live in fear over it. I'm going to point others to the cross of Calvary, knowing that whatever I have need of tomorrow, that God's going to supply it. So let's trust Him. Let's live as He has called us to live, in faith and confidence, moving forward with love, power, and a sound mind. Well, I hope that you have a wonderful Monday. I hope that today you make a decision. I'm not going to live in fear anymore.